Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of If Margaritas Could Talk, the Over 40 Chronicles podcast. I am your host, Tracy Black, and today we are talking celebrity, hot gossip, and more. Of course, I want to welcome back my co-host, Kira Wilding, and invite you to grab a margarita or your beverage of choice and get ready to dive right in. Well, hello, Kira.
Well, hello, Tracy. Happy St. Paddy's Day.
Happy St. Paddy's Day. That's the luck of the Irish. It's today. Are you doing anything special?
No, I am not. Did you have green beer?
No, I don't drink beer, but I usually make a traditional St. Paddy's Day Irish stew. Unfortunately, I didn't make it this year.
There you buy.
No, there you buy. Didn't do it.
Oh, well.
I am super stoked for today because we, of course, are spilling the Margarita, even though we would never really do that, on Celebrity Hot Gossip Train. Specifically, we are talking about Meghan Markle and Blake Lively. I want to start the discussion about her new Netflix series called With Love, Meghan. Have you had an opportunity to watch it?
I did.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. One of the things I noticed immediately right away was everybody and their dog online is unhappy with this Netflix series. And then because they renewed the season, everybody has a voice again. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't like it, don't watch it. She's not curing cancer, right? This is a fun show. She's doing a little cooking tips, some decorating tips, some, hosting tips. It's not going to be for everybody. If you don't like it, don't watch it. I thought it was kind of whimsical, kind of cute. I enjoyed it. I did. I enjoyed it for what it was. I didn't take too much into it.
Right. What's really interesting is a lot of people, they sort of tend to forget she did exist before she became a part of the royal family. And when she was on Suits, and she had a lifestyle magazine called Tig that was named after a red wine, and fashion and blogging and food and all the things were part of her life back then, even way before her life with the royal situation. So I find it interesting that because of who she is today, that she's just getting hit hard again. And it's hard to watch a little bit.
I think she's a target for any kind of criticism. I don't think the woman could do anything without a certain percentage of the population criticizing her. And I think that's a lot for a lot of the celebrities. You're going to have people that love them. You're going to have people that don't like them. I don't know what it is about Meghan Markle that everybody hates.
Well, here's the thing. The woman grew up in California. She comes from a biracial family, and she made her own. I mean, she went to university. She studied in theater. She's done a lot. And then, when she was younger, she also got like the Reitman's contract, and she was part of her own clothing line with Reitman's. I mean, she's done a lot, but you bag a prince and all of a sudden you're a target. That's my feeling. Since the Lady Diana days, that was hard to watch. And then you watch Catherine Middleton come into the royal family. And also too, one of the fun facts about Meghan was actually the oldest, I guess, to marry into the royal family in terms of marrying a prince, and her age, she was 36.
Yeah.
And Catherine was like 29 when she got married to Prince William. So there's that age thing. But, what my takeaway from the show, I sort of felt through it that there was this need for acceptance. And I think you and I sort of talked about that a little bit a few days ago, where she stated a couple times throughout different episodes that she has always been kind of a giver. She likes to prepare. She's a foodie. But there was some moments throughout where I kind of felt like she's having to really work hard to prove who she is as just an individual human being. And parts of it come across in the show. Did you pick up on that?
Oh, I know exactly of which you speak. I think she has to. No, she doesn't have to. I think anybody in that position who has had the criticism and the backlash of what she has gone through by marrying Harry and everything that has gone with that, there is going to be more of not a responsibility per se, but she's going to feel the need to prove herself that much more than had she never married Harry. Nothing this woman can do is going to be right for the majority of the population. She is controversial. She was a divorcee. She's older, like you were saying. She's biracial. Let's throw anything that you can criticize her, and she's done it.
Yeah.
So she's not part of royalty, where historically princes would marry into that royal family, or you'd have some kind of royalty in you to marry into that family anyways. And she had none. She's a Hollywood actress.
But you know what I find interesting? So if we look at the historical realm of the lineage of the princes and the princesses that came before, and of course, Queen Elizabeth, it's funny because how many throughout the years of the royal family has there been infidelity? And a lot of it's been with people who were none of the above, right? Who were part maybe of the social community existence and being raised in that environment and having some upper echelon leveling. But I don't think it was ever a royalist to a royalist marriage in many, many years. When you're listening to this podcast, both of us are in our 50s and don't remember everything all the time. Take note. I'm really bad with names, like so bad. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you get the point. Yeah. So much infidelity. I mean, you look at Prince Charles and Camilla. Well, Camilla didn't come from royalty, right? She came from upper echelon, part of that community, but she doesn't have a royal name.
And she wouldn't have a royal name, but they come from that, yes, you said it, the echelon, whereas like Princess Di came from that echelon of people that would be expected that Prince Charles would marry.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lineage that kind of falls below of what like the kings and princesses are. So then if you're part of the lineage, you're still part of that community, which was big in the royal family. When we do these big elaborate parties and so on, all of the community that is lower lineage of many of these title holders. I mean, in the example of Kate Middleton and of obviously William, you know, they went to school together. And of course, she was raised in that semi-royalty family dynamic, right? So she knew what to expect. And that's why she's thrived, I think, so incredibly well. And just her personality and so on. It's funny because Meghan coming from California, being non-traditional, there's so much was just stacked against her from the very beginning, right?
But could you say that because obviously Prince William is going to be the next king. Harry is, I don't want to say he was the spare, and that's what they call him, the spare to the heir. How many members down the line, but chances are he's never going to be king, and they know that. How would it be different if William met Meghan? If Kate Middleton was elderly, biracial, a divorcee, would the palace had stepped in and said, no, you cannot marry her? It's okay for Harry to marry Meghan. Harry will never be king. There's less of this expectation for Harry. So Meghan, as a result, isn't going to get as much prepping, whereas Kate is absolutely, she's prepped. She knows the do's, she knows the don'ts, where Meghan's like, I just married the guy I love.
That's a really great point, actually, that you pointed out about if he had fallen for somebody that was outside of the realm. But I think the pressure, even from the beginning, when the Queen was leading him, and really mentoring him on what the expectations were because of him being next in line to the throne after his father. It's a really, really valid point. I was a huge Lady Di fan. Like, I'm a huge royal fan in general. If you're a British person, you love them or you hate them. And there's so much, I think a lot of us don't know. And then you look at all the movies and see, different series that have come out and Netflix shows and everything about the royal family. And I'm sure probably some of it is true, but then just like this whole situation with Meghan, how much of it was it put out into the universe by paparazzi and so on, the British press, right? Now, bringing that to the surface, I found it quite interesting in this series that she has this desire and need to take care of people. And she's always felt this great need and to work with the earth. They have chickens and Archie's little chicken coop. It's so cute. Chicken. It's so adorable. Like, can you not with that, right? And so I wanted to go to the moment where Mindy Kaling is a guest on the show and the conversation when she's talking and calls her Meghan Markle, and she corrects her instantly with, there's nothing better than carrying the name of your family and what we've ... She's, making the thing, and she corrects her. So, nicely by saying the last name is Sussex. Yeah.
Yeah. She says, I'm a Sussex now.
I'm a Sussex now. Yeah.
Yeah. And yes, because technically her last name isn't Sussex, it's Mountbatten.
Mm-hmm.
I do know that when the kids were going to school, they were William Wales and Harry Wales. They were the the Prince of Wales. So they do kind of take on that, the area that the name that they are assigned once they're, married, they would take on that Sussex name. Technically, it's not her last name. I think situations like that where Meghan, makes a comment, we've all been there where we say something and then we instantly regret it. And we're like, that came out wrong. That I didn't mean it that way. Because she did it was a little snappy, It was. Yep. You're just kind of like, ooh, okay. You're a Sussex now. Do I think that she was, insulted by what Mindy had said? No. I think it's just one of those things that slipped out and she probably was like instantly regretting her words. And of course, the producers are going to be like, this is going to be gold. We're going to keep this in.
Right. The funny part about it that I found was, of course, People Magazine, US Magazine, Entertainment, like all of the social platforms where everything has to do with celebrity gossip. This now becomes the hottest gold topic of all the things. Like, let's ignore the rest of the whole entire episode, but let's talk about this ridiculousness with the name. And then everybody has to give their 2 cents about this name situation. So my understanding is, yes, you're correct. So when Harry was in school, yeah, he went by Harry Wales or William Wales because they're taking on where their dad's title is from, which is from Wales. So with Meghan and Harry being noted that they are taking on the title of Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they then in turn decided as a family they were going to adopt that name, but never really formally put it out to the world. So I think that's where some confusion came in because Mountbatten Windsor is actually the whole royal family's full title, but they're never really known in the world when somebody's speaking in reference to the last name situation of any of the royal family that they'd use that. You're not like Prince William Royal Windsor Batten, blah, blah, blah. Like, it just doesn't happen that way. It's just, the Prince and Princess of Wales taking on the title of Sussex and sort of, for better, quote unquote, adopting that Sussex title as their last name. I'm confused. And maybe you can help me out with this. She went on Oprah, had a whole interview with having this really strong stance on the possibility of losing her last name and how much that meant to her. So then now what's happened is you've gone back Now you're like, yeah. Do you get the point where I'm going with this?
She's flip-flopped. In the Oprah interview, she was like, I'm not going to lose my name Markle. I'm a Markle. I'm not going to lose that identity. And now this with Love Meghan comes out and she's like, no, I'm not a Markle. I'm a Sussex. Yeah. And I don't want to sound like I'm, like 100% defending Meghan. But I think people's attitudes and their perceptions change. People get married when they're first married. They're like, no, this is my maiden name and I'm going to always honor that name. And then once you get married, you might go, no, I want to adopt my husband's name because now it has a different meaning than, when I was doing the Oprah interview a couple years ago. So she's allowed to change her mind. The unfortunate part is people remember the Oprah interview and then they go, hey, 3 years ago or 4 years ago, I can't remember how long. I think it was when did that interview come out?
It was 2021.
It was right before the prince got sick, but
correct.
She's allowed to. And unfortunately people have this memory and say, well, now you're flip-flopping. Now you're wishy-washy. Now we don't, well, she can, she's allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, she's going to be called out for it.
Are you ready to add a little sparkle to your life? Let me introduce you to Kindred Fusion, the ultimate destination for permanent jewelry. That's right, no more worrying about clasps or losing your favorite pieces. With Kindred Fusion, you can enjoy beautiful, seamless jewelry that is as unique as you are. Imagine a stunning bracelet or necklace that feels like a second skin. Sounds amazing, right? At kindredfusion.com, you can explore a gorgeous selection of styles that fit every personality and occasion. So head on over to kindredfusion.com today and discover the magic of permanent jewelry.
Yeah. Are people not allowed to change their mind? Here's an example. You know me, my last name is not Black. That is my pen name because I am an author and a voice artist, and it's just way easier to remember than this giant long last name. So no one knows how to pronounce my real last name. And then it's just butchered and it's not a good situation. So when I was making that decision on what a good, memorable pen name is for being, an author, a podcast host, a voiceover artist, all the things, I chose something that was going to be easy that people would remember. So I get it.
And Tracy Black is a cool name. Not taking anything away from your actual last name right now. But at the end of the day, we can legally change our last name to whatever we want. I could be Kira Sussex. I could go down and I could legally change my name to Kira Sussex. And that would be my legal last name. I could do that.
Well, if Phoebe Buffet could change her name to Princess Consuela Banana Hammock, then why not? Or Crap Bag.
Crap Bag.
Oh my God. So back to the whole Meghan Markle thing. I did enjoy it. There's one thing that I love, everything that has to do with home. I love everything that has to do with gardening. I love all the things. And the food stuff, one of the other parts of the backlash was people are saying, well, all she's doing is replicating everybody else's recipes out there and then showing them on the show. Well, yeah. That's what everybody does. That's what you do. You make your favorite things. You show how to display them. She's not trying to reinvent the wheel. She's just trying to bring to light some of the things that I think bring her joy and happiness and who she is with all the heaviness of the royal stuff sitting on them constantly. I get it. I really do.
Oh, I'm not that person. You want to come to my house? I'll get you your first drink. You're getting them every other time after that. I'm not going to put a chocolate on on the pillow if you come and spend the night. I'm not going to make sure that I have homemade, bath salts for you. I'll try and be a good host, but that's just not my thing. But that's other people's things, and people will lap it up. And hey, it got renewed for season number 2.
Yes.
That means something. Like,
It does mean something.
If it didn't do well, it would not have gotten picked up for season number 2. So she's doing something right.
Well, actually, do you want to know what's really funny, interesting about it? Everybody who's negatory about the series, it's in the top 10 list of the shows being watched on Netflix right now. So what does that tell you? Everybody is trying to get on board, and they're interested because they want to know. And I just laugh because it's such a contradiction about how many people just are like, no, I'm not a fan. And,
or they go, I hate Meghan Markle, but I watched her whole series and I hate Meg. Then why did you spend all that time watching somebody you cannot stand?
Let alone put a note about it on their page that you follow. There's something to be said about people who have an opinion. I'm not a fan of the opinionitis that seems to be a thing now in life. Everybody's got it. And so if you don't like it, you don't have to be a part of it. It's just that simple.
Yeah.
You know, it comes also back down to that good old saying when we were taught when we were kids, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all.
I know, but what fun is that?
What fun is that? Do you know any facts about Meghan Markle? Like any recent facts?
Factual stuff? Mm-hmm. No.
Okay.
No.
There was another part of the episode where she had talked about, she studied calligraphy, actually part of her curriculum in university.
Yeah.
And sort of, I think it was the last episode because she was doing the brunch. Did you get to that? Did you see it?
Yes, I did. She does have beautiful penmanship.
Penmanship. I love that word, those words.
Penmanship.
That's great.
Her calligraphy.
Did you catch the little jab about, I only got an A- in it because I'd like to give it some color. I was like,
only
why?
an A-. Oh,
only.
Poor muffin. Poor muffin.
But it was funny to me because I'm going, again, another proof of, I'm trying to prove who I am, and to take sort of that position where in that moment, you're just writing out a menu, man. It doesn't matter. But again, what matters to somebody else doesn't necessarily mean it matters to us, right?
Yeah. And could it also be another, the exact same situation where she says something and then immediately goes, why did I even say that?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So with her lifestyle magazine, The Tig, she had started that lifestyle magazine back way when, I think it was like 2000 and what did I write down here? Mm-hmm. And, it highlights all the things she loves. So how is the show any different? And people have known about her for such a long time, when she ended up on Suits. And here's a known fact. So Abigail, who she had on with the other girlfriend, I think it was just the third episode, she had the group of girlfriends on. Abigail was on Suits. Her and Abigail shared the same birthday. So there's a fun fact I bet you didn't know.
Oh, I didn't know that. I do know that they were on the same show together, but never had any scenes together. That was something that they had said.
And another fun fact, her real name is not Meghan. That's her middle name. So her real name is actually Rochelle. It's Rochelle Meghan Markle. Come on.
Well, I can't even trust her. I don't even know who she is anymore.
Oh my gosh.
I can't trust anything that comes out of that woman's mouth. I'm sorry, Meghan. I'm just kidding. I love you.
Oh, just the funny stuff. Yeah, so there we go. We're talking about the situation with Meghan Sussex, as we will, whatever you want to call her, just Meghan. She calls Harry H. Why doesn't she just go with M? My name is M, and then call it a day. That would be much easier for everybody because nobody really knows what the heck your real last name is at this point. That's my 2 cents.
Well, hey, keep them guessing. And does it matter?
I guess
at the end of the day, does it matter? She wants to be Meghan Sussex. She can be Meghan Sussex.
Yeah, that's right. She can choose whatever she wants.
Could it be? How much is it that people are jealous of her? I'm going to get a lot of backlash for saying that. I'm not jealous. I just don't like her. But prior, like when she had Tig and she was just an actress on Suits, you know, and she was really a nobody on, nobody criticized her.
That's
Now,
right. Well, I think there was some people that didn't like her acting, but you know, that was before social media, like real social media, where everybody felt they could just say their opinion or whatever. Right.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Now she marries a prince. And
I 1000% agree with that. She is part of royal family. She bagged a prince that everybody wanted because he was the wild one. You know, the world. I remember the days when he was single and he was the hot topic of everything. Oh, Harry's out with this girl, or Harry's out with this girl, or is this going to be the next prince? Part of the royal family is, that you get that from, especially from the British press, right? Also, another fun fact about Meghan Sussex. Yeah, she was the first royal family member to vote because it's against the rules for royalty to vote. So she was the first one to vote. She's
a badass rule breaker.
I know. There you go. They've stepped down from their duties and royalty and no longer collecting a paycheck. So then she exercised her right as an American citizen to vote.
And you know what? And if that's her right, go for it. And I just want to clarify, because I think a lot of people have misconception that her title was stripped from her. And it wasn't. They are still the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. The HRH, Her Royal Highness, His Royal Highness, that was taken away from them, as well as any honorary titles, like any honorary military titles that they would have gotten under that. And they're not a practicing royal, so they don't have any duties. But she is still Duke or Duchess of Sussex. That was never taken away from her. And I don't think it ever can be.
You know, it's funny. It's funny that you bring that up about the duties title. Now, of course, Harry was in the royal military. I don't know this, but I'm not sure if you do. Was his military commendations that, you know, everything that he worked for, were those taken from him? Would it be?
I don't think it would, because he was an active member in the military. I know we're not talking about Harry, but did you read his book, The Spare?
I did not. No,
okay.
That's one
I recommend anybody to read it. I listened to it and Harry actually narrated it himself. So listening to the book in his voice, it's really an eye opener to his life and him growing up. And it talks about all of his girlfriends, meeting Meghan. It really explains it, and you get a really good appreciation for Harry. I love him even more now that I've listened to his book. I don't see how they can take away that title if he was, you know, in the military, he ranked, because he actually did that. It wasn't honorary. He earned that. The HRH definitely was taken away.
Yeah, right. The other thing that I wanted to make mention too was, you know, them as a family, I am here for it. I think because they are trying to break tradition, you know, everything that had gone on, according to their interview with Oprah, they were bringing to light the things that happened. And here, you know, again, this sort of comes back to, if it comes from the horse's mouth, I believe in that. If it's, you know, if it's third party, whatever, you know, paparazzi, British tabloids, any tabloid, that's not from the horse's mouth. So when somebody sits down and tries to ask the hard questions, and she became emotional in that interview, and, you know, the presence of racism was brought up, that was probably one of the biggest things she was impacted by.
What color her children would be.
Yeah. And you kind of go, you know what? How can anybody be mad at somebody for trying to be protective of their family? A lot of people ask, you know, what you're getting into when you get into the royal family. Well, that's the lineage of kings and queens. And if you happen to notice, there wasn't really ever a lot of people around of any kind of color, really. You know, so was it foreign to them? Perhaps. Did they approach it correctly? I think not. Again, I don't know. If the Queen accepted her, what's everybody's problem? That's what I had a problem with, I think, for the most part of it.
I agree. And I think a lot of things also can be taken out of context. what color is our baby going to be? It doesn't matter. It's going to be baby colored, who really cares? And especially today, is this something we should even be talking about? Mm-hmm. But then on the flip side about it, it could have been a very innocent, it probably wasn't, because royalty is known to be very, stringent in their, what you can and cannot do. But also, is it really bad to go, we've got, a biracial marriage, and, I'm wondering, is the baby going to take after his father who's got red hair, or is it going to have, the darker skin of Meghan? And those types of questions, I think, are innocent.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we've hit all the points on Meghan, whatever her name is, right? Meghan Markle. I shouldn't be like that.
Windsor, Sussex.
Meghan Markle. Sussex, as she wants to be called. Anyway, okay, we want to get into the next hot topic, which of course is Blake Lively. That whole situation with Justin Baldoni, and they were, of course, acting together in the movie It Ends With Us, which is based around domestic violence and leaving that situation, so on and so forth.
You watched the movie?
I did watch the movie.
Oh, did you like the movie?
I don't know.
I really liked the movie, and I think it got, just not to go into them yet, but just the movie itself. It was criticized for glorifying domestic abuse.
Right.
And I don't think it did. I don't think it glorified it at all. I think what it did was it put it in perspective of a lot of women that are in that same position where you start a relationship, and as you're going through it, you're not seeing it.
Yeah.
You're not noticing the fact that you are being mentally abused, emotionally abused. We make excuses for our partners all the time, like the scene where he burns himself and he yells at her, and you go, well, of course he burned himself. Like he's reacting out of emotion and pain, like physical pain. Then when she's at the hospital and she is recalling all of these separate incidences, that's when you go, now you're putting a different spin on it and going, this is how it can be perceived.
Right.
So I think it did a really good job. They didn't glorify it, I think, at all. They did a really good job of saying, this is how easy it can be for people to make excuses for their partner and just say, no, that wasn't it. It was, I provoked him or it was my fault, but yeah, he burnt his hand and he lashed out, and,
When you were mentioning about how they were highlighting it or whatever, I think the thing about it in the movie, they show the trueness of it being in a domestic situation and the energy it takes to hide it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? To hide it from everyday life. So you try to live normally. You try to show that everything is hunky-dory and you're happy in happy land and you're all in lovey-dovey and all these kinds of things around people that are closest to you without actually, stating the obvious. The thing about Justin Baldoni. So I sit back and I go, again, kind of like the Meghan Markle thing. If it came from the horse's mouth, it happened. Any woman who feels a certain type of way in a situation, especially in an uncomfortable situation with somebody, has a right to how she feels in that moment and has a right to understand what's not okay and what's okay. So the hard part about it is that you've got, again, all the social media, all of every single platform putting their 2 cents in about trying to, create a monologue of what happened and what they're saying in the scene and da. And it's like, she's in that moment with him. That's her experience. Who is the world to say any different? Like if a man says something inappropriate in the workplace and you're uncomfortable, you're going to say, I'm uncomfortable, and you're going to take it to HR, or you're going to do whatever you need to do, or you're going to talk to another coworker about it and say, this situation happened. Or some people keep a tight lip, and then that's what happens. That person continues to get away with doing the same behavior, which is inappropriate. So if a person lives in that mindset where it could be even the slightest of comments, right? Says something that is sexist or what have you towards a woman. You're so hot, you're so beautiful, whatever. I mean, I'm not quoting that that's what he said. I'm just saying that, sexual harassment is a big deal when a woman says, this made me uncomfortable. So on the aspect of she's brought this to light, I look at it in two ways. I go, she brought it to light and then he created the smear campaign because he didn't want to be called out for his inappropriateness. What do you think?
Well, I've got a lot of thoughts. I think that if she feels uncomfortable because of sexual misuse, she feels, inappropriate, that somebody has spoken to her inappropriate. Absolutely. Every woman has that right to stand up and say, I am not going to be treated this way. I'm not going to be spoken to this way. Let's even take it a little bit further. And she was sexually assaulted. Absolutely. There is, there's nothing worse than a woman being assaulted unless you're a man that's being falsely accused. And I think that happens a lot and we forget that. And I'm not saying Justin Baldoni did not act inappropriately, but I did watch the raw cut of when they were dancing in the bar, and that's what was released. And each of them are almost saying, this proves my case. And the defense is saying this proves my case. And I watched it and went, what am I actually watching? I'm watching two actors who are playing two people in love with each other or very sexually attracted to each other in the movie. It's more of a background dance, and he was the director as well, but they were just kind of dancing in the bar. There was other things going around. They were making chit chat. I didn't find what he said to be overly offensive.
Hey there. Have you ever heard about permanent jewelry? It's this amazing trend where you get custom fit pieces that you never have to take off. It's absolutely about style and convenience, making your look effortlessly chic. Trust me, once you tried it, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. Life is forever beautiful with kindredfusion.com.
Right. Now, remember that that's the outside looking in. So in that moment, in that moment, there is a little bit of a side where he sort of goes to nudge into her neck a little bit. And apparently that's when something was said. So they may not have caught that on camera or what have you, but it could be something. It could even be, now here's the thing. I'm not going to spread rumors, but this is a little bit about spilling the tea and the gossip. What if they're dancing and he's like, this is good, and I'm kind of feeling it. On set, of course, they have people that work with them on set for intimate scenes, and apparently she or they were not able to align their schedules to get some of the coordination done with that trainer that does those intimacy scenes with them. So there was something about that. Schedules are conflicting or some darn thing. It is such a difficult web when you're dealing with the sexual harassment stuff. And I feel like a woman has a right to speak if she feels uncomfortable with something. And we teach our children nobody's supposed to tell us things, talk to you inappropriately, touch you inappropriately. And that goes even as an adult. If it's you're uncomfortable, you're uncomfortable. And I've been the subject of sexual harassment in the workplace in my previous career life world. And I was like, men could get away with a lot of things. And it can be the simplest things like saying, oh, you should be wearing a skirt and not pants. That's inappropriate. So, when it comes to all the stuff of he said, she said, are we dealing with another Depp trial coming on our hands in March of 2026? That's what I'm wondering.
Absolutely. And I don't know the history of Justin Baldoni. Is he known to be sexually, inappropriate on scene? Like, is this is this his MO? Is this what he's kind of known for? Because if he is, I kind of go, okay, I have a problem with people that know the industry. They take on a role. Let's just say Justin Baldoni, maybe he known to be sexually inappropriate. And then all of a sudden it happens to her. And now she slams this $1 million lawsuit against him. And it's like, wait a second. And I don't know what happened up to that. Is this your first course of action? Has this been brought up to him personally? Have you guys had that conversation? Is he continuing to do it after you go to him and say, listen, I'm not comfortable with these comments and these remarks that you make. Let's stick to the script. Because I think he did go off script a little bit, but hey, actors do. So if this is her first MO, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that your first course of action is to try and slander somebody else or take something that you have construed. And I'm not saying, if it's sexually inappropriate, it's sexually inappropriate. But I think there's different actions that you take before you go to that extreme, because now you can't take that back.
Well, the thing of it is, though, if we talk about the Me Too movement, this is fundamentally kind of falls in line with that, where a lot of Hollywood celebrities, producers, big name producers got away with a lot of nasty stuff for a really, really long time. And women finally just said, enough is enough. We're not going to be, sexually exploited to get a part, threatened that we're going to be ruined and so on. When a man, and I'd like to just reference this for a second, because this might, I don't know, but when a woman comes forward to say this situation happened to me and everybody says, but, why did you react that way? Or why did you go about this way to react that way? Or why didn't you do anything 10 years ago when it happened, or yada, yada, yada. That's that person's experience. And for anybody other in that moment to say otherwise, we are not that person in that moment, in that position. So it's the outside perception looking in. Here's an example. Justin Baldoni was co-actor alongside Gina Rodriguez for a couple of years on Jane the Virgin. Now, has she ever come forward to say anything about him? No, but it doesn't mean that anything past that has ever happened. I mean, you just never know. And a lot of Hollywood over the years, stuff's been hidden and people have gotten away with things for a really long time because of power element. My response to, and the reason why I question it so much is, if he simply didn't do anything, why would there be a smear campaign? Why would he turn around so desperately to work with co-producers, other team members, to create a smear campaign, which she had proof of? I don't get it. Is that a defense mechanism? Because I think this is so much more deeper. And again, is this another Depp case coming out? Because, he said, she said, it's hard. We're not highlighting whether it's a little thing or not. If it happened to her and she says it happened to her, I believe her. Plain and simple. Until proven otherwise.
I think where I have the problem, though, is a woman, generally speaking, can be the one saying, you acted inappropriate to me. You made sexual advances. I felt uncomfortable. And the world has to believe her, because there's nothing worse than not believing a woman of, or even a guy for that matter, a victim of sexual inappropriateness, whether it's just a comment made or it's a rape. But how many times does that happen to men when it's totally fabricated? A woman is cheating on her husband, gets caught, and now she says he raped me. Like, I just think that we can't eliminate that as well. Not every single woman that makes the accusation is telling the truth, and men's lives get ruined as well. I'm not saying Blake Lively is making this up. I don't think she has a reason to. And I don't even want to say, because I know I'm going to get backlash for it. Did it have to come to this extent?
It does come down to that Hollywood stigmatic, a lot of stuff happens. People talk about it all the time. All the P. Diddy stuff, which we've talked about, and people of power get away with stuff, specifically men. It's not always women. And yes, there are some women. And of course, is there some people out there in the world that are, using their situation as a way to get noticed. Nobody really knows ever what the intention is behind when somebody comes forward to say, this is the circumstance that happened with me. Everybody's recollection is their own perception. I know that for a fact. So, a situation that happened to me yesterday was my perception on how that happened. But the person that was interacting with me in that moment, their perception of that moment could be very, very vastly different than my perception of it. So that's where the lines get skewed a little bit, I think. And it's TV, right? You watch a movie or a show, everybody's perception of what they witnessed is going to be perhaps a little bit different. They're going to take away different things from it. And I think that's the reality. So if your experience, especially as a woman in Hollywood and all of the things that have come up over the years, if you want to be in Hollywood and you're an A-list celebrity and you have high expectations in production and how you should be treated and so on and so forth, maybe, there needs to be a different way. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
I do look at it like this is a bigger issue than, somebody in work and it's an HR issue, but let's just compare the two, in a smaller scale. You go up to somebody, you speak, maybe you had a bad day, you speak curtly to your colleague. They're offended. They don't come to you and sit down with you and say, Tracy, you hurt my feelings, or I didn't appreciate the way you talked to me. They go directly to HR. HR calls you in and says, Tracy, we're writing you up. And you're going, great. Now there's a black mark on my work record. And it was misconstrued. Is this the same thing? And as, and again, I am not comparing for anybody out there who has, is a victim of, sexual inappropriateness or anything like that. This is not comparing something very minor. If it's bad, it's bad.
It is a hard situation. I think that we're getting third-party information. The only two people know that really what happened is the two of them. So every single person standing outside of it, filming it, writing about it, talking about it on a podcast, we're all third party. So we don't really know the truth. No one will until the evidence is brought forward and there's supposedly proof on both sides. So you go, okay, I think letting things play out. She felt strong enough that her husband, Ryan Reynolds, got involved a little bit. And, you want to protect your family. It's a tough one. But all I know is Blake Lively doesn't really necessarily have the best reputation. And again, kind of one of those people that the world doesn't necessarily think that she's a great actress or, everybody always has something to say about things. And they were out on the red carpet recently. She was also doing a step and repeat with Anna Kendrick. They have, supposedly there was a write-up that there was also some kind of a turbulence and feud between the two of them. Anna Kendrick came right out and said, no, nothing. We've always been amicable together. Pardon my language. And again, the world just wants to constantly find a villain in the story. And it's tough. Yeah. It's super tough.
Yeah. Anna Kendrick and her did a movie together, I think, after the It Ends
Simple
With Us.
Favor, I think it was called.
Yes. I do want to see that. I didn't know about it. And I love Anna Kendrick. I think she's a neat little actress. And, I like Blake Lively as well. And also, she's saying, no, there's things, like we're amicable. There's no issue between us. I think it's definitely, a game of when you're doing interviews and you're talking to the paparazzi or you're, anything like that. I think you really have to watch what you say. Because in the case of Megan Sussex, her words are going to be, turned around and used against her.
That is The truth. Oh my gosh. Well, I guess we're getting to that time. It was such a good conversation today. We are spilling the margarita on some pop culture stuff and, of course, celebrity gossip.
We are. And I just want to make sure that if anybody out there is feeling like they are being treated inappropriately in any way, you do have a voice and use it. I did not want for 1 minute to sound like I'm, on these men's sides and, men will be men. That is not what I'm saying. I think there definitely are two sides to every story, and they both have to be taken seriously. So you have a voice and use it.
And that's all for today's episode of If Margaritas Could Talk. Thanks so much, Kira, again, and everybody for tuning in. Don't forget to join us in the coming weeks as I will be breaking down my new book, New Year, New Me. And also, we have a special guest that's coming up, Lisa Marie NP. She is a nurse practitioner, and we are going to be talking all things about sexy, intimate health over the age of 50. So that is going to be a hot topic that's going to be coming up for everybody. If any of our listeners have something to add, please drop us a comment or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep laughing, keep living, and remember that if life gives you lemons, what do? Make a margarita. Please follow, like, or buy us a coffee on your favorite listening platform. We can also be found at www.ifmargaritascoulddtalk.com, #podcastdiva. Thanks, Kira, and cheers to everyone.
Thanks, Tracy. Always great to be on your show.
Talk soon. Bye.
Bye.